Hey, how's it going? Keith Morgan here for TechTyro.com, and today we're going to be unwrapping this model that Corwin has made. To start, we'll assign the different materials to where we need them, and just using some general workflow helping methods to do that. So with that, let us jump right in. Currently we have the main building here, and we have these little escape doors, and so we'll be doing those separately. So I'm just going to switch over to cycles for now, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to hide these three buildings just by selecting them all and hitting H, and then we'll focus on the building here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we'll set up a few materials here. Now we'll take into account the different materials we're going to need. So what we've decided to do here is this is going to be a brick building. So the walls here will be all brick, and we'll need a separate texture for the windows, and believe it or not, we'll use a single texture for all the windows, and then we'll just offset some of the windows to different areas of the image map, and they'll look a little more random. We'll need a concrete texture for the rooftop, and we also need a paint material for the door, and as well metal material for the trim and handles. So let us go ahead and make those materials as necessary. So we'll call the first one brick, and it's just easier to make the most abundant material the default one, as we won't have to assign it to everything afterwards. And then we'll make the viewport color for it slightly reddy orange, just so we can differentiate it. And then we'll call the second one glass. We'll make that one a slight blue. We'll make a third material for the concrete. A fourth material for the paint on the doors. So we'll call it paint brown, or something like that. And we'll go ahead and make it brown for the viewport display. And then we'll have one more for the shiny metal on the handles. Alrighty. So we'll go about assigning these now. And we'll just revert that back. Okay, good. So with the brick as is, we don't have to worry about assigning that. But with all the windows, we do need to assign them glass material. So we're just going to tab into edit mode here, and we're going to go ahead and select all the windows. And just an easy tip, if you have the same windows on the back side as we do here, just go into wireframe, go to the perspective where you can see everything, and then you can select right through the building to get both sets of faces. We'll just grab those and hit assign. Alright, so we have all the windows done. And now we have to do the concrete. So we'll start down here with this pillar here, and I'll just select that. Go down to the material, hit assign. We'll also do concrete on this bottom of the roof here. I'm just using circle select because it's very good for these wide areas like that, and you can just access that by hitting C. And we'll hit assign. And just for the sake of having a floor underneath, we'll also make that concrete. And that'll also be a very easy piece to unwrap later. Alright, we'll make sure we don't have anything else selected accidentally. Good. We'll assign that. Whoop. Make sure we're on concrete. Alright, so there's that. So we're also going to do these caps on the building facades here. So we're just going to go ahead and select not all that. you know, if you select an edge loop, it's efficient, but then just quickly deselect it with the circle tool again. Whoop, there we are. So that appears to be what we want. And we'll go down to the concrete, hit assign, grab that edge loop, deselect those faces, hit assign, and then hit 7. We can see just these top faces here, and we'll just grab those. Now, a limitation of the circle select tool is that if it doesn't have very good resolution in denser areas, so you'll have to zoom in to make sure you have all those faces selected. Okay, and a couple more on this side. Okay, and we'll hit assign. And we just want to do the same thing over on these as well. And we'll also be selecting this entire floor area. So once again, you go into top. And actually, we can just select all these faces here, because these will all be concrete. Yeah. And like I said, remember, in those denser areas, you'll have to zoom in if you're using the circle tool, just so it has the resolution to grab those. We'll hit assign. Okay. So that one's easy because it's a single loop by itself. We don't have to worry about it intersecting any more of the building like it was down here. Hit assign. Grab that. Go into wireframe. Use our circle select to deselect all these faces. Make sure we don't have any excess. And we'll hit assign on concrete. And now we have to do just these top faces left. So we'll just grab these quick. And what's nice about staying in solid view while you're doing this is at least in solid view, it'll only grab the faces that are facing the your viewport. If you went to wireframe, you'd be able to select right through the building, and that's not really helpful in this certain situation. So we can take this, and then we'll hit assign on concrete, and then we'll just grab this inner edge here, assign that, and this as well. Making sure we're on concrete again, hit assign. Alright, so we have all those assigned. Next we're going to do the brown paint. And we're going to just do the doors here. So we'll just come into perspective here just to see a little bit what we're doing, so we can get right in. And we'll select this area here. And you know, if you see an edge loop or a face loop, you can select all those. Just to make it easier, hit Alt, and just for example, along the border of the door here, just hit Alt, or Shift Alt rather, if you want to keep the faces you have selected, and it'll select that entire loop of faces. Quite handy. So I'm just gonna keep on selecting this. We have another ring of faces in there, so we'll hit Alt, Shift Alt rather. Select that ring, and just so we don't lose our progress so far, we'll go and assign that right now. Now you can see some of this starting to come together already. And let's quickly finish up this door here. This is where perspective helps. You can get in where orthographic necessarily wouldn't let you see, with all the other geometry getting in your way. Just sneak right in there with perspective and off to the races. So we have that, and so lastly we'll assign the shiny metal. So that includes all of the door frame area and the door handles themselves. So we'll go ahead and we'll see if we can snag that edge loop. And looks like that was well modeled for our advantage here, it being all one face loop. So that makes it easy on us. We'll just go ahead and assign that. Take our circle select, and we'll just grab those faces, making sure we don't have any ones selected that we don't need. And if you're using circle select and you want to deselect some faces, mouse over them with your middle mouse button. So it's C and then left mouse button to select, and then middle mouse button to deselect. And then it's right click to get out of circle select. Just for those of you that may be wondering how to use that. So we'll drag out our UV panel here, or we'll drag out another panel and make it a UV image editor. And so we're going to focus on the windows first, just to show you a really quick and easy system to do unwrapping with certain setups as such. So we have our building here. If we go to wireframe, we can see everything all nice and dandy. But a nice thing about assigning all your materials first is that you can go and select by materials. So see, we have all of our faces selected here. So we're gonna have an issue with the door windows down here just because they face a different way. But that's fine, because we'll just re-unwrap them after we do these. But with all those selected, just hit U and then project from view. And you'll see we have all our windows all in this nice setup we have. So now we'll just have to go ahead and re-unwrap these specific windows. Or rather, go over here and we'll just deselect all these faces. And we'll just project those from view as well. And we'll just move them out of the way. We'll give them a bit of detail. Here we have our windows. And actually, we're going to also do something a little bit different. We covered this in the desk texturing tutorial, so you can find more on that. But we need to do separate UV maps for each of the different materials, just in case we have images whose aspect ratios conflict. It'll change how some of the aspect ratios of your mesh appear on the images themselves, and so it could potentially mess up the stretching, and stretch your tile or your textures you're using. So we're going to go ahead and use multiple UV maps and use those just on separate materials where we need to use them. So we'll create 3 here since we'll need 3. Because we've already unwrapped the windows, we'll call the first one windows. We'll need another one for the bricks. And we'll need a third one for the concrete. So with the Windows one's still selected, we'll just keep working on this. So when we go and texture this later, we're going to go ahead and overlap a lot of these windows on just a few different windows. So we won't have to specifically texture each individual one, but they'll share a small sample of window textures that we can distribute randomly enough that it'll still look not like the same window. So to do that, and assuming that most of your windows are the same size, we can turn on snaps down here by hitting this little magnet. And then we're going to change the snap UV element from increment to vertex. And then what we can do is, I'm just going to grab all these and scale them up for one. Whoop. Turn off snaps for a moment. Turn that on. Okay. And, okay, that should work. We'll turn snaps back on. And so you only want to do this with windows that are, I guess you can get away with it. The height is more the dictating factor than the width. So you wouldn't want to overlap these shorter windows with the taller windows, but you could definitely get away putting some of these shorter windows with the longer windows down here. But what you want to do is if you box select some of these elements, you can then start moving them. And because we have snaps turned on to snap to the pixels, you can see that they start to overlap perfectly. So we're just going to go ahead and make a few piles of these, and you want to put them a little further apart than the ones right next to them. And it's alright if you lose track of where these windows come from. That kind of adds to the randomness of the texture later. And we can start overlapping them over some of these other ones. Like I said, it's not so much the width that matters, it's the height. Just as, curtains and blinds generally go to the same level. It would kind of, it might look off if you put something of the same height in the different windows. So I'm just going to go ahead and time lapse and make a few piles for different textures that we'll be using for these when we actually go ahead and texture them later. So we have the Windows Unwrap now, so we'll just save. And we'll go ahead and we will grab, we'll switch to our bricks UV map here. And we'll go ahead and switch to the brick material. So if we just go ahead and hit select on the brick, select. So we'll do that and hit U and project from view. So that'll put all the faces in a nice grid for us. That looks pretty good already. But one thing we have to take care of is the fact that all of these faces are, like, all around the building are in there. So we have to re-unwrap the sides just so that they don't get 1 pixel stretched across the entire surface as it currently would. And I'm just going to select the, come over here, select the glass, and we'll just get those out of the way just so that they're not bugging us over here with this. If you notice, these are the original glass coordinates. This is because we have switched to the brick UV map. If we go back to the windows, you can see the windows are perfectly where they were. If we go to the brick, we have to, we still have all that data we don't need. So I'm just going to go ahead and scale those really, really down so that they're not in our way. We'll go back and we'll just select the bricks. Whoops. Select the brick. So we have that. And then we will deselect all these front faces. So if we just go into 3 and take our circle select here and we just deselect, we'll get rid of a lot of those faces that we don't need. We'll have to zoom in just to get rid of some of them. And we'll make sure we don't have anything extra selected by the door here. Okay. We just need to grab this row right here, and then we should, in theory, be alright to project this part from view as well. Just make sure, one more time, we have all the faces selected, and it looks like we do. So we're going to hit, so we can see all these head on, and we'll bring our UV back over here, and we will hit U, project from view. And I'm just going to move it over here to the side. So if we bring back everything, we can see everything. But this part over here is not to scale with everything else. So we're just going to go ahead and scale it to the best of our abilities to be the same height. That way the brick texture we put on will loop the same number of times, or rather it'll tile the same number of times and line up a bit better. So we're just going to, like I said, just line that up as best as possible. But, you know, get it as close as possible. And just to save some room on our layout, we'll just put it over the same area. Or, yeah, no, that's a lie. We'll move it over. And if we need B, we can offset each of these separately when we get the actual texture on there to make sure the brick texture lines up along the corners and such. And like I said, we'll be using a tileable brick texture, so it doesn't really matter if this falls outside of the box or not. It'll just tile anyways. So with that unwrapped, that's good. So now all we have to worry about is the concrete. So we'll switch over to our concrete UV map. And we'll select everything over here. Let's move it out of the way. It doesn't really matter at this point. And then we'll go ahead and we'll grab our concrete. We'll select that. We'll do everything from the top view. So we'll hit U, project from view, and we'll just select it, scale it up, something like that. And now we have to unwrap the sides and, well, anything on the sides here. just because when they were projected from the top, they just ended up being flat faces, or rather they would just be a single pixel wide over here on the map. So we're just gonna open this up again, and so can only do so much of this at once, what we can see through, right? So I'm just gonna go ahead and grab what I can see here. Because the high density of faces in this area that overlap, you can see it's darker, so that's just what I'm going by here. If you're having issues, you can always switch back to solid view and just take a little bit more time. I also realize that this is selecting faces on the back side of the brick area, but those are easy enough to deselect. So we have those, and we'll just get rid of these on the brick side as well. This doesn't really matter because it's a different material, but you know, if you want to keep your UV maps a little tidier, helps. So we need to grab these as well as these. And if you have any on sides that aren't supposed to be used, we'll just get rid of those. Actually, if we just go to wireframe, we can see it a bit better. So we'll just get rid of that. Make sure nothing else that isn't supposed to be selected is selected, and everything that is. So we have all that. Okay. So we'll go to the view that lines up with that. And we will project from view, and we will just move those out of the way for everything else. And so we'll just finish this up by grabbing this side here. Alright, so we have everything we need. So we'll just go to side here, you project from view, grab those, scale them up, G, move them over. And if we just go ahead and select all the concrete faces, we can see them all here now. So we'll just scale them to be uniform to each other. These look about the same. We'll just move them to be in line so we can be a little more efficient. Likewise, we'll be using a tileable concrete texture, so you won't have to worry about it falling outside of any border or whatever. It should work just fine. This being a considerably larger area, you want to scale it up so that it is in par with everything else. And yeah, that looks... If we just take a look at our building here, this should just be a smidge narrower looking here. Smidge shorter. It's not, you know what, that's about right. So we have that, and you know, you can overlap this just to clean up your area a bit. So the door paint we'll be doing procedurally with nodes later, so we won't have to worry about unwrapping that unless you want to, in which case by all means they're just flat, project from view, worry about the rim if you want. And the shiny metal, if you wanted to have a specific grunge texture on those as well, yeah, you'd want to unwrap those. But we are not going to be worrying about that. You know, add whatever personal flair you want. So the building is unwrapped now. Now, with these escape doors, we'll be using a similar method, but we'll only be unwrapping one because they're just duplicates of each other. So we won't have to worry about too much. And I'm just going to hit Shift H, and that'll take it into isolation mode, hide everything else that is in there, so we can see what we're doing a bit better. And we're going to go ahead and give it 3 materials as well, rather 4, just like everything else, or rather just like the building itself was. And so our base is going to be the brick texture. We're also going to have the concrete texture for the roof, a brown paint for the door, and shiny metal for the handle. This one doesn't have a window, so we don't have to worry about that. So we'll just quickly assign those. There's little tips you can do to make it easier on yourself, like assigning the materials first. That makes it easier to select the faces. later as showed, and you find just quick little workflow tips to help you select things faster or deselect things faster. You know, there's ways to get around. But this concrete here, we're going to do one more step to it. We're going to mark a seam just around it, just so I can unwrap the top in one nice piece. So we're just going to select all these edges along the bottom of the material, and then the ones that go up to the corner. And we're going to go over here to the side here and hit mark seam. So you'll see those are now marked. And so that should suffice for, those might be the only seams we'll mark on this entire thing. So we're going to go ahead and also make 3 maps. So this one, or rather just 2, one for the concrete, one for the brick. So this one will be brick. And this one will be concrete. Let's go ahead and save so we don't lose all our progress. So first we're going to unwrap the brick. So let's come over here, drag this out, and select the brick. This looks like the biggest part, so we'll just go ahead and hit project from view. And then we will go into wireframe, use our circle selected, deselect those middle faces that we don't need, come back around to the front. Whoop. And then we will unwrap those faces, project from view. So we'll just scale these so that they're in the same scale as they are the same height. And we will just move these, and we'll move them as necessary later, depending if we need to make the bricks line up around the corners. So now to the concrete texture, we're just going to switch to our concrete map, and then we're going to get away it just by unwrapping. And you can see the bottom comes off in one nice piece, and so does the top. And because we marked those seams, the corners unfolded nicely. So we're just going to overlap these to make it efficient. Scale them up or whatever, doesn't really matter. So we have that unwrapped. So now you're wondering, if we just hit Alt-H to unhide everything, well, we've done one, do we have to do these other two? The answer is no, if they are duplicates of each other. What we can do is if we select these two, and then we select this one we've already applied the materials to, so it's the active parent, you can tell because it's a lighter orange. And we go down here to Object, make links in Object Data, it'll select, or rather it'll assign everything where it needs to be. And you can see it even has all the same unwrap data, so that's really useful. So that's just a quick way to do that. And you know, if you want to offset the texture slightly so that you're not having any issues like that, you can go ahead, hit this little 3 next to the Object Data tab, and that'll unlink it. Currently it's saying 3 because 3 objects are sharing that data, which is each of these. If you want to offset the UV maps of a separate one, go ahead and hit this 3, and then you'll be able to offset it separately from these other ones. So that's how you would do that. So that is our building unwrapped. It's a really good start to what we are going to be using in our set extension. And you can make this as complex or as low poly as you want, depending on your needs and your aesthetic choices. You know, there's a lot of techniques to do a lot of this. It's just a matter of what you're willing to put in to get what you want. But you can see, even just like simple here, it looks, you know, pretty nice. Just with the base colors, you can see exactly, well, not exactly, but you know, close to what you think you're gonna get. So that's always nice. So yes, that is it for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it and learned a lot. For Tech Tyro, this is Keith Morgan, signing off.